Ever wonder why some songs just hit the sweet spot while others seem to miss the mark? A big part of that may be due to unmasking frequencies in the mix. In the world of sound engineering, unmasking frequencies is like giving each instrument and voice its own spotlight on the stage. When frequencies overlap, they can create a muddy sound that prevents individual elements from shining through. But when they're unmasked, each part of the song can be heard and appreciated in its own right. Imagine for a moment a painting where all the colors are jumbled together. It's hard to discern the individual elements that make up the image, right? The same principle applies to music. When all the sounds are jumbled together, the result can be a cacophony that's hard to enjoy. But when each sound is given its own space, just like each color in a painting, the result is a harmonious blend that's pleasing to the ear. This is where the art of unmasking frequencies comes into play. It's a skill that sound engineers use to ensure that every instrument and voice in a song has its own unique space in the mix. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, where each piece fits perfectly into its own slot. When done correctly, unmasking frequencies can enhance the clarity of each element, making the song more enjoyable and balanced. It's not just about making a song sound good though. Unmasking frequencies can also add depth to the music. When each sound is clearly defined, it allows listeners to pick out individual elements and appreciate the complexity of the composition. It's a way to showcase the talent and creativity of the musicians, and it can make a big difference to how a song is received. So the next time you listen to a song and wonder why it sounds so good, remember that it's not just about the melody or the lyrics. It's also about how the sounds have been mixed together. So, unmasking frequencies in your mix can be the key to achieving that perfectly balanced sound. But how do we do it? The first step in unmasking frequencies is understanding what they are and how they work. So, let's dive right in. When we talk about frequencies in the context of music, we're really talking about the pitch of the sound. It's how high or low a note is. Frequency is measured in hertz, and 1 hertz equals 1 cycle per second of a wave. The faster the wave, the higher the frequency, and thus the higher the pitch of the sound. Now, human hearing is quite remarkable. We can hear sounds in a range from around 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. That's a pretty wide spectrum, right? Well, to put it in perspective, a grand piano has a frequency range from around 27 hertz for the lowest note, to just over 4,000 hertz for the highest. But it's not just about the instruments. Human voices also occupy a specific frequency range. The average male voice ranges from about 85 to 180 hertz, while the average female voice ranges from 165 to 255 hertz. So whether you're dealing with a deep bass or a high soprano, each voice has its own unique frequency range. And this is where it gets interesting. Different instruments and voices can occupy the same frequency range, and this can lead to what we call frequency clashes. It's like trying to listen to two people talking at the same time. Both are vying for your attention, and it can be hard to make out what either is saying. This is why understanding frequencies is so important. By knowing where each instrument and voice sits in the frequency spectrum, you can make sure that each has its own space to shine. It's a bit like arranging the pieces of a puzzle so that they all fit together perfectly. Now that you understand the basics of frequencies, you're ready for the next step, identifying frequency clashes. Get ready to dive deeper into the world of sound and discover how you can create a harmonious mix that allows each element of your music to be heard clearly. Identifying frequency clashes in your mix is the next critical step in unmasking frequencies. This is where you start to understand why certain parts of your mix may not sound as clear or as crisp as you'd like them to be. To identify frequency clashes, you'll need to use audio software. This software allows you to visually see where frequency clashes may occur in your mix. Picture this. You're looking at a graph of your song's frequencies. Peaks and valleys denote different sounds within the mix. You'll notice that some of these peaks overlap. This is where frequency clashes can occur. Now let's delve into the signs of frequency clashes. One of the most common signs is muddiness. You see, when two frequencies are too similar, they can sometimes mask each other, creating a muddy or unclear sound. This is often most noticeable in the low frequencies where the bass and kick drum live. Another sign of a frequency clash is a lack of clarity. Let's say you have a melody line played by a guitar and a vocal melody in the same frequency range. If they are not properly balanced, one may overshadow the other, leading to a lack of clarity in the mix. Frequency clashes can also lead to an unbalanced mix, where certain parts of the song stand out more than they should. You might notice that the vocals are too quiet or the drums are too loud. This is often a result of frequency clashes and can be resolved by adjusting the levels of the conflicting frequencies. In some cases, frequency clashes can even lead to a phenomenon known as phase cancellation. This is when two sounds of the same frequency cancel each other out, leading to a hollow or thin sound. Identifying frequency clashes is a bit like being a detective. You need to listen carefully, look for the signs, and use your audio software to help you find the culprits. It's a process that requires patience and a keen ear, but it's an essential part of creating a well-balanced mix. Once you've identified the clashes, it's time to resolve them. Let's move on to the next step. Resolving frequency clashes may seem complex, but with the right tools and know-how, you can do it effectively. So, what's the first step in this process? Well, it's all about using an equalizer to adjust frequencies. The equalizer is your best friend when it comes to resolving frequency clashes. It allows you to boost or cut specific frequency ranges in your mix, helping to balance the overall sound. For instance, if two instruments are clashing in the mid-range, you might decide to boost one and cut the other to create a clearer distinction between them. But it's not just about boosting and cutting. It's also about understanding where each instrument sits in the frequency spectrum. For example, a bass guitar typically occupies the low end while a violin might sit in the higher frequencies. Knowing this can help you make more informed decisions when adjusting your equalizer. Next, we have panning. Panning allows you to position sounds in the stereo field, and it's another powerful tool for resolving frequency clashes. By moving a sound to the left or right, you can give it its own space in the mix, reducing the likelihood of a clash. Just imagine, if a guitar and a keyboard are both occupying the same frequency range, simply panning one to the left and the other to the right can help to separate them. And lastly, don't forget about volume adjustments. Sometimes, the simplest solution to a frequency clash is to adjust the volume of the offending instruments. If a vocal is getting lost in the mix, for instance, you might decide to reduce the volume of the other elements to allow the vocal to shine through. So, there you have it. Equalization, panning, and volume adjustments. 3 simple and effective techniques that can make a world of difference when it comes to resolving frequency clashes. And there you have it, the basics of resolving frequency clashes, but there's one more step to go. The final step in unmasking frequencies is testing and refining your mix. You've put in the time to understand your frequencies, identify clashes, and resolve them. Now it's time to test your mix. This step is crucial because it allows you to hear your mix in different environments and on different devices to ensure that it sounds fantastic no matter where or how it's played. Think of it as a dress rehearsal before the grand performance. It's the final checkpoint where you ensure that all your hard work has paid off. It's all about fine-tuning and perfecting your mix to make sure it's ready for the world. First, you should test your mix in the environment where you created it. Since you're familiar with this setting, it's the best place to start. Listen carefully. Does everything sound as you intended? Are the frequencies balanced? If not, don't worry. This is your chance to make any necessary tweaks. Next, take your mix for a test drive in different listening environments. Try listening to it in your car, on a home stereo, through a pair of high-quality headphones, or even on a small Bluetooth speaker. Each environment will highlight different aspects of your mix, revealing any potential issues you might have overlooked. Remember, your mix should sound good on all types of devices, from high-end audio systems to the tiny speaker on a smartphone. If your mix only sounds good on studio monitors, then it's not truly a great mix. You need to refine it until it sounds good everywhere. Don't be discouraged if you need to go back and make adjustments. It's all part of the process. Each test is a learning opportunity, a chance to improve and perfect your mix. It's not about getting it right the first time, but about making it the best it can be. And with that, you've mastered the art of unmasking frequencies. Remember, practice makes perfect, so keep mixing and refining.